Alrighty, good morning, folks. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. My name's CJ. This is the CJ Curry Show presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. If you don't play on PrizePicks yet, a 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit all the way up to $100 awaits you. Use promo code Curry to take advantage. Link down in the description below. There's also links down in the description for things like our free Discord, which has player prop research bots, NBA news and info, and other sports. All kind of stuff going on in the free Discord. And if you want to join the premium side of things, we've got a $20 Patreon option, which unlocks all the channels where you can be a part of the community, help support the show, and join a like-minded group of individuals who are helping each other win day in and day out. So shout out to all my Patreon members, those folks that are watching. I appreciate you. Salute to you. Got ourselves a pretty meaty, pretty hefty NBA slate going on tonight, guys. A lot of games to talk about, a lot of pending news that could potentially shake things up as well. So we'll run through the chat, say what's up to everybody who's joining us live, and then we will get into said NBA news and info. Todd, Live for Sunday, says he is ready for some CJ. Well, here I am, my friend. I hope you are ready. Didn't go too crazy last night, but this slate of 11 games is looking like some bets will be placed. Let's do this, everyone. Absolutely. Tons and tons of ways for you to go ahead and get into some player props today, talking NBA and prize picks. Pick 3 Lover says, good afternoon. Let's make some money. Good afternoon to you as well. Todd is saying that the Bucks are going to go 7-0 without Chris Middleton. He freaking loves it. Everyday Fantasy says, today feels like a good day. Shout out to the chef. I think he's talking about me and the Patreon group. Let's have a winning Wednesday, brother. You flex at me, I'm going to flex back at you. D'Angelo Sinning says, bounce back day. Hashtag locked in. I love it. Wesley Winston, what's up, boss man? Wesley, another one of our longtime Patreon members. Shout out to you, bro. JY says, let's get this money. Ripo, leaving the money emojis. Mike says, let's go, pimp. Paul says, Philly pimpin'. And we got Jerron saying, let's go. Trill Fate, what's up to you? Long time viewer, bro. Good to see you here, Trill Fate. All right, gang. Let's get into it. Let's solve today's Poeltl puzzle of the day. We're trying to figure out who the mystery player is. And since today's thumbnail player happens to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, let's make him our first guess of the day. All right, it's not the Greek Freak, guys. It is not Giannis Antetokounmpo, all right? This player, in fact, does not play in the Eastern Conference, so we have to go out west to figure out who the mystery player is. All we know so far is that this guy is exactly 7 feet tall. He's a 7-footer, tall fella, all right? He's younger than 27 years old. Jersey number is one that is below 34. So 7-footer, not a forward, maybe a center. Younger than 27, jersey number under 34. Well, who else is playing tonight? What about AD? Does Anthony Davis fit the bill, or is he too old at this point? He's getting up there in age. All right, Anthony Davis, not a terrible guess. We got some matches here. He's in the Western Conference. This player plays in the Pacific Division. It is not Anthony Davis. He's not quite 7 feet tall. AD's older than Giannis by a couple of years, so it's, not the greatest guess in the world. All we do know is that the jersey number is now between 4 and 33. 4 and 33. Somebody's saying, what about Ivica Zubac? Zubac? All right. Hey, we could go Zubac. Zubac is playing tonight against the Houston Rockets. LA Clippers taking on the Rockets. Kind of one of those rematch, run it back type of situations. We've seen a lot of that early on where these teams play each other in back-to-back games. But yeah, it's not Ivica Zubac, but he is in the right division. He is a center. He is 7 feet tall. Ivica Zubac getting us closer. This player's young, all right? He's 25, maybe 24, maybe 23 years old. 24 or 23 years old, we're going to guess. Jersey number a little bit too high for Ivica Zubac. Some of you guys are saying, what about DeAndre Ayton? DeAndre Ayton. We go with DeAndre Ayton. We'll see if it's DeAndre Ayton. Ayton did not play last night. It is DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton did not take the floor last night. In his absence was Bismack Biyombo. And guys, we thought Rudy Gobert was going to have a good game against Bismack Biyombo. Rudy Gobert was kind of ghost, man. Didn't really hit any overs. Like, his points, wasn't really scoring. In fact, I don't even think he made a field goal attempt. His only points came from the free throw line. And I think he ended up with like 9 rebounds. I mean, he just did not have a very good game. It's really hard to figure out the Minnesota Timberwolves. But anyway, DeAndre Ayton is today's Poeltl Mystery Player of the Day. Obviously plays for the Suns out west. He's in the Pacific Division, is a center, is a 7-footer, 24 years old, and wears jersey number number 22. So shout out to you guys who guessed DeAndre Ayton. You're on top of the game. You're on top of the game. All right, let's get into today's NBA slate. We got a lot of games to talk about. Don't want to hold you guys up for too long. 11 NBA games. We got one that's tipping off earlier than normal. Typically, these NBA games kind of get started at 7 p.m. Eastern time. If anybody knows why this game is starting at 6 p.m., let me know. My only hunch, my only guess is being that it's the Philadelphia 76ers and the Philadelphia Phillies are in the World Series and they play at 8 o'clock. Maybe they didn't want to split the fan base, the Philadelphia 76ers and Philadelphia Phillies fan base. So I don't know, maybe they're starting it at 6 o'clock, hoping that the game finishes up, and then all the Sixers fans will then tune in for the Phillies World Series game. I think it's at like 8:03 or some weird time like that. But that's the only reasonable explanation I could come up with as to why it is a 6 p.m. Eastern time tip-off game. But Washington facing Philly, again, these teams just faced each other. 218.5 points, not a very high total game, 6.5 point spread. Keep an eye on Joel Embiid. He's a game time decision. He did not play in the last game, so in his absence, they ended up starting PJ Tucker at center. They went small ball, I believe, and they ended up putting Melton in there in the starting lineup alongside of Harden, Maxey, Harris, and Tucker. So we'll have to keep an eye on Joel Embiid's injury situation. Boston and Cleveland. This one looks kind of fun. 220-point game for the total. 2-point spread favoring the Boston Celtics. We got Gallinari, and the Time Lord Robert Williams continues to sit. He'll probably be back December, maybe January from what I'm hearing. And then for the Cleveland Cavaliers, keep an eye on Darius Garland. He is a game time decision. He's been sitting out and Donovan Mitchell's been going off. But if Darius Garland's in, his presence in that starting lineup is absolutely going to shake things up. It's going to shake things up. It just has to, right? So we'll pay attention to Garland tonight. Sacramento and Miami. Did these teams just play? I feel like these teams just played a couple games ago. I don't know. De'Aaron Fox got injured, guys, the last time he took the floor, so he's going to be out tonight. In his place will be Davion Mitchell, not to be confused with Donovan Mitchell, but Davion Mitchell for the Sacramento Kings. He had himself a pretty good game. Once Fox went down, Mitchell came in and was getting buckets and dropping dimes like he does. So pay attention to him. That could be a spot for us to exploit. For the Miami Heat, Tyler Herro is a game time decision. If he sits out, that could definitely shake things up. So keep an eye on the Miami Heat news. He's a game time decision, but 220.5 points favoring Miami by 6. Here's probably one of the marquee games of the night. The Atlanta Hawks versus the New York Knicks. Guys, it's Trae Young in Madison Square Garden. We know how this plays out, right? The MSG crowd doesn't like Trae Young. They don't like Ice Trae Young. And I think he feeds off of that, being hated, playing in Madison Square Garden. This seems like a Trae Young type of game tonight. We'll just have to see how it all shakes out. But as far as injury news goes, nothing really too major that has changed. I love the total on this game. 233 expected points between these two teams with a 2.5 point spread, meaning the game should stay close. It should stay competitive. Hopefully we see 4 quarters of these starters out there and it doesn't turn into a blowout. Charlotte at Chicago, 8 p.m. tip-off. Keep an eye on Martin and Rozier. They have both been game time decisions for the last few games. They have both continued to sit for the Charlotte Hornets. Dennis Smith Jr. has been playing pretty well in absence of Terry Rozier. So keep an eye on Dennis Smith Jr., Terry Rozier, that whole backcourt situation. The Chicago Bulls, Andre Drummond, game time decision. Kobe White, game time decision. Those are 2 key players in their rotation. Zach LaVine ended up going off last night. If you took Zach LaVine's points, he ended up doing really well. If he took his fantasy score, he ended up doing really well. Zach LaVine got really hot against the Brooklyn Nets last night. And we talked about him on yesterday's show at 22.5 and at 23.5 points. He ended up covering both of them. So if you took the bump, well, you ended up winning. Anyway, this one has a 224-point total with a 5.5-point spread. It looks like Zach LaVine will probably be sitting out. This is on a second half of a back-to-back, and they probably don't really need him to beat the Charlotte Hornets, let's be honest. So maybe DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, Ayo Dosunmu, those guys will probably step up in his absence. Another run-it-back rematch type of game, the Los Angeles Clippers and Houston Rockets. We talked about it a moment ago. It looks like Robert Covington and Kawhi Leonard are both out for the Clippers, so it's going to be the Paul George show once again. He'll be getting some support tonight from the likes of Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris, John Wall probably will be coming off the bench. For the Houston Rockets, they're still kind of short-handed in their front court. No Bruno Fernando, Jayshawn Tate, or Ty Washington. Alperen Şengün, we'll talk about him. He could be an interesting play going up against Ivica Zubac. Detroit, Milwaukee. This game looks like a blowout, y'all. 11.5-point spread. It's favoring the Bucks. 223-point total. Not the highest total in the world. As far as injuries go, speaking of injured front courts, the Detroit Pistons still missing Marvin Bagley III. Their rookie, Jalen Duren, will not be out there as well. So it'll be Isaiah Stewart. And I guess they're going to go kind of small ball with Bogey, Bogdanovic, and Sadiq Bey in that front court. For the Milwaukee Bucks, keep an eye on Drew Holiday. He is a game-time decision. Pat Connaughton, AJ Green, Joe Ingles. This guy with the long name, he is out. And, of course, Chris Middleton continues to sit. But the big one here to keep your eye on is Drew Holiday. Toronto at San Antonio, 224 points, 7-point spread. Fred VanVleet sat out in the last game. He is a game-time decision tonight. Keep an eye on him. I'm not sure if he's going to play versus San Antonio. Maybe they rest him again. I don't think that they really need him against the Spurs, so we'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of the Spurs, they got their own injuries on their hands. They got Keldon Johnson, Isaiah Roby, Sokan, also a game-time decision, and Devin Vassell is already ruled out. 224-point total with a 7-point spread favoring the Raptors. We got Utah and Dallas, guys. This one tips off at 8:30, 221.5 points, 6-point spread favoring Dallas. How good has Luka Doncic been? I mean, we already know he was really good, right? But how good has he been to start this season? Dude's been phenomenal. We'll talk about one of his props, and that could be a good option for us. But Christian Wood, game time decision. Keep an eye on the Dallas Mavericks. Christian Wood's kind of fallen off the last couple of games. He's quickly become somebody I can't trust. He's been coming off the bench, and I can't trust Christian Wood coming off the bench anymore. Had a really good couple of games to start the season. Christian Wood, they need to put him on the side of a milk carton because my man has been MIA ever since the first couple of games of the season. Anyway, Memphis and Portland, we're getting into some of these late night games. 10 p.m. tip-off. A lot of news here from both sides of this game. Steven Adams, Desmond Bane, both game time decisions. Keep an eye on those guys. I don't know what they're going to do if both of those guys are out. We'll have to wait and see. For Portland, Josh Hart is a game-time decision. Of course, Damian Lillard continues to sit out. Gary Payton's out as well. But 226.5 points with a 4.5-point spread. Hopefully it stays close and competitive. Now, this is the one I've been waiting to get to. 10:30 p.m. tip-off. The New Orleans Pelicans versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Obviously, we got Anthony Davis for the Lakers. Once upon a time, drafted by the New Orleans Pelicans, was their franchise cornerstone. They decided to ship AD out. He kind of became not too happy, not too infatuated with the Pelicans organization. So he wanted to head out west, tag team with LeBron James. And, they ended up getting a ring out of it. So good for them. But he's going to be going against the new franchise cornerstone, Zion Williamson, tonight. So that should be a very interesting battle. We got Joe Val and Zion versus AD and LeBron James in the front court here. As far as injury news goes, Brandon Ingram's still out. He will not get to go against his former team, the LA Lakers. And then on the flip side for the Lakers, you got LeBron and you got Juan Toscano Anderson and you've got Anthony Davis, all game time decisions. If AD and LeBron James don't play tonight, I'd be shocked. I'd be surprised. The Lakers need a win badly. They're 1-5. So this one's got a 228.5 point total with a 3-point spread. So that's it, man. That is all the games. Big slate of games. Let's talk about some picks. Again, these are just some picks that I've come across today. Some ones that stood out to me that maybe are worth discussing, worth diving into. So we'll talk about them now. Let's go split screen here. Bang, bang. And we'll go over to props.cash. Props.cash is how I do all my player prop research. We do a little combination of props.cash. We do a little bit of DVP diving thanks to the FanDuel DVP charts provided by Fantasy Pros. That's completely free. We use some NBA advanced stats tools. Those are completely free on NBA.com. And we take a look at some projections and look at some of the other sportsbook lines courtesy of our friends at Fantasy Lab. So let's start things off here by talking about one of the marquee matchups of the night. DeJounte Murray of the Atlanta Hawks going up against the New York Knicks. We already talked about this game. Really kind of setting up for a Trae Young type of night, right? Seems like a Trae Young type of game to me. So DeJounte Murray has played pretty well, right? He's coming close in a lot of these games to hitting the 20.5, but I'm thinking maybe we go back to the under. Back to the under on DeJounte Murray at 20.5 points. Let's dig into his game logs and see why. Well, so far this season, they've played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. DeJounte Murray has went over just 2 times out of 7 games. So he's 2 for 7. Not the greatest hit rates in the world. The games that he did go over, he barely limped over with 21 against Milwaukee. That was the most recent game in which he covered 20.5. And then he had 26 against the Detroit Pistons. All right. Those are the only 2 teams in which he has gone over. The other games, really close. Like I said, 20 against Houston, 20 against Orlando, 19 against Charlotte, 20 against Toronto in his most recent game. But tonight he's taking on the New York Knicks, just taking a look at what he did against the Knicks last season. Of course, this was when he was with the Spurs. No longer with the Spurs. He's now with the ATL Hawks. So 15 against New York in one game, 24 in the other. So he was 1 for 2. Split it up when he was with the Spurs. 50% hit rate for DeJounte Murray. Just digging in a little bit deeper here. His minutes are very healthy, 38, 39 in a lot of these games. The last 3 games, though, his minutes have been down, 32, 34, and 30. If he plays that many minutes tonight, well, I like the under even more. Taking a look at the field goal attempts for him. 19, 16, 15, 18, 21, 19, and 15. So he's shooting a pretty healthy amount of shots. His field goal percentages, they're okay, not bad. I mean, right around 50% most of the time, 47%, 57%. So he actually does shoot a pretty decent percentage. Taking about 4 to 6 3-point attempts per game. Gets to the free throw line usually a couple times per game. And that's kind of the rundown there on DeJounte Murray. So what about the matchup? He's going up against the Knicks tonight. Really hard to kind of like peg whether DeJounte Murray is the point guard or the shooting guard. I mean, both of these guys are kind of like combo guards, but we'll take a look at both point guard and shooting guard here and see how the Knicks have fared. They're giving up about 25.6 points per game to point guards. So that kind of puts them toward the top, right? A decent amount of points given up to point guards. What about shooting guards? New York Knicks against shooting guards. Well, we got to go all the way down here. They're giving up about 18.1 points per game to shooting guards, which is the second fewest in the league. So it seems like they give it up more to point guards, a little bit less to shooting guards. So when you kind of combine both of those numbers, right, the 18 for shooting guards, the 25 for point guards, you know, you're right around 41, 42-ish points, somewhere around there. So we'll see how it goes. It'll probably be another sweat, but this could be a possibility, a way for you to go, taking the under or less on DeJounte Murray. Now, let's get you a projection. We're going to be using the Fantasy Lab projection tools here. We talked about this one the last time DeJounte Murray took the floor. He was at 20.5 points on some sports books, but we like value, and we are getting value here if we are thinking about going under on DeJounte Murray for 20.5. What I mean by value is some sports books have him at 19.5 points. I'm looking at FanDuel. I'm looking at Parks. I'm looking at Bet Rivers, Rivers Resort, Unibet. They've got him at 19.5, which is 1 whole point less than where he's at on PrizePicks, right? So that means value, especially if we're looking at taking the under here. I like the fact that he's at 19.5. That means their lines makers think 19 to 20 points is an outcome here for DeJounte Murray. So it's going to be a sweat, right? He's projected for 20.2 points. That's closer to 20 than it is 21. He's at 19.5 on some of these books. So DeJounte Murray, for me, we're going to go less. I think less is more in this case. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat if you're thinking DeJounte Murray stays under 20.5 once again, like he has in 5 out of the 7 games in which he's played this season, or do you think he's going to go for more than 20.5? All right, DeJounte Murray's out of the way. Let's talk about his teammate here. John Collins at 8 rebounds. John Collins at 8 rebounds has been money. All right. He's been pulling in double-digit rebounds against most teams. Looking at his last 5 games here, Charlotte, Detroit again, Toronto. He's pulled in 10 or more rebounds in 4 out of the last 5 games, averaging 9.6. But he's only at 8 rebounds today. Maybe we're getting a little bit of value on John Collins. Let's go back a little bit further and look at more of his game logs. Appreciate everybody who's just getting here. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you subscribe, like today's video, and guys, I'm going to be doing free giveaways, giving out a free entry for $100 on PrizePicks. All you have to do is make sure you're a subscriber, make sure you've liked today's video, and once the replay goes up, leave a comment with your favorite prop of the night. All right? Doesn't have to be a winning pick or a losing pick, whatever. It's just your favorite prop. Maybe it'll help somebody out in the community. So we're going to continue to give away free entries every single day. So tell a friend, tell a family member to tune in, subscribe, like, and leave a comment once the replay goes up. Maybe they can get their hands on a free entry as well. All right, so John Collins' rebounds are set at 8 on PrizePicks. Let's see where he is at here across the industry. We'll dig into this a little bit further. If we bump him down to 7.5 rebounds and we look at all his game logs, guys, he's only hit the under on 8 rebounds in 1 game. It was against a tough Milwaukee Bucks squad. We're talking Brook Lopez, big guy, right? Giannis Antetokounmpo, obviously a big guy in his own right. And then you got Bobby Portis. They got a lot of formidable weapons across their front court. So for John Collins to struggle against Milwaukee is not much of a surprise. We've seen him against Houston pull in 8, 13 against Orlando, 10 against Charlotte, 11 against Detroit, 10 against Detroit, and 12 against Toronto. So he's hit this number, 8 or more, in every game but 1 so far. Taking a look at what he did against the New York Knicks last season, he played the Knicks a total of 3 times, ended up going for 8 or more rebounds in 2 out of 3 games. That's a 67% hit rate. That's not terrible. That's not the worst hit rate in the world, right? Scrolling down here, you can kind of see how his minutes have fared the last 3 games. His minutes have been down too, kind of like DeJounte Murray. I expect in a close competitive game for his minutes to be quite healthy tonight. And then you can kind of get a breakdown of how his rebounds, how he comes about his rebounds. In red are defensive rebounds. In green are offensive rebounds. So, of course, like most rebounders, most of his rebounds are going to come from the defensive end. Now, he did get into some foul trouble against Toronto, picked up 6 fouls in that one, but it did not slow his ability to rebound the basketball, finishing with 12 rebounds, his second highest output. So again, 8 or more rebounds in every game except for the game against Milwaukee. Let's take a look at the rebound chances for John Collins and see where he ranks amongst his teammates, right? So we're gonna use the NBA.com advanced stats tools. We're gonna select the Atlanta Hawks. We're gonna come down here. We're gonna say get stats, and it's gonna give us all the game logs, 7 games worth of rebound data here. So John Collins is leading the way, averaging 15 rebound chances. These are opportunities for him to grab a board, right? 15 per game. He's number 1 on the Atlanta Hawks charts here. And he's averaging 9.9 rebounds this season. Guys, that's almost 2 rebounds higher than where his line is tonight at 8. So is it a good matchup? We know the opportunities are going to be there based on what we've seen in a 7-game sample size. But is the matchup good? Are the Knicks a team that gives up rebounds to power forwards and centers or not? Not really. Well, let's look into it. So we're going to be using the DVP charts here provided by Fantasy Pros. These are completely free. Just go out to Google, type in Fantasy Pros, FanDuel, DVP, NBA, something along those lines, and then this will pop up for you. But taking a look at the power forward position against the New York Knicks, the Knicks are giving up over 12 boards per game to opposing power forwards. John Collins needs at least 8. We're hoping for 9 so we don't tie, we don't push. But in this case, yes, the New York Knicks are giving up the 3rd most rebounds per game to opposing power forwards. So what about centers? Are they giving it up to centers like they are to power forwards? Well, they're ranking pretty high here against centers too, so that could mean Clint Capella's rebounds as an option, but they're giving up 15.8 boards per game to centers. So against opposing front courts, guys, they're giving up quite a few rebounds, 15.8, let's just call it 16, plus another 12. I mean, that's like 28 rebounds per game. John Collins needs to find at least 8 of the 28 per game that they give up to power forwards and centers. Are you guys liking this so far? Are you guys liking the John Collins play so far for the rebounds at 8? I think it's looking pretty solid. Last but not least, we're going to get you a projection. What will John Collins do tonight? What is he projected to do tonight? Well, I've got him projected for 9.4 rebounds. Now, he is at 8.5 rebounds on most sites, most sports books out there. At 8.5 boards, we're seeing a lot of action on the under. Minus 135, minus 138, minus 140. So they have bumped him down to 8. At 8, I think we take the over here. Hope for at least 8. Maybe he goes for 9. Maybe he goes for 10. But he's projected for 9.4. Appreciate Mr. Noam Joseph for subscribing to the channel. Love that, buddy. But yeah, I think John Collins for me is going to be more of a lean toward the over at 8 rebounds. Staying with this game, New York Knicks, Atlanta Hawks, I wanted to talk about Julius Randle. Julius Randle at 28.5 points plus rebounds seems like a number that maybe is doable. We're going to have to dig into it. Let's look at this one a little bit closer here. Julius Randle's another one of those guys who can be kind of frustrating. From game to game, you just don't know what Julius Randle is going to do, right? So let's see if we could figure out if we should be going over or under on Julius Randle here. Well, he's played 6 games so far. 6 games so far. He's only covered this number in 2 games. Once against Memphis with 35 to start the season, and then again against Orlando with 37 points plus rebounds. In the other games, 21, 23, 26, and 24. So one of the more inconsistent type of players out there. What did he do against Atlanta last season? Well, against Atlanta, he had 19 in one game, 37 and 30 in the next 2 games. So the points plus rebounds for Randle hit at a 67% hit rate last season against this Atlanta Hawks front court. All right, so let's scroll down here and take a look at Julius Randle's minutes. They've kind of fluctuated. He's been as high as 39.8, as low as 25.5. This 39.8, that was an overtime game against the Charlotte Hornets. So if we throw that one out and look at the others, you know, around 35 minutes or less is usually what Julius Randle's going to get in terms of playing time. He's gotten into some foul trouble this season. 6 fouls, fouled out against Memphis. He had 5 against Orlando, Charlotte, and Cleveland. So he is racking up some fouls. He can't seem to keep his hands to himself. And if he's not out on the floor, well, he's not going to do us any good as far as racking up points or rebounds here. So let's look at the DVP here, the matchup. He's a power forward, right? Mitchell Robinson, the center for Atlanta, or for New York, rather. How many points per game are the Atlanta Hawks giving up to power forwards? Well, they're actually giving up the second most, 26.7 points per game to power forwards. So that's a lot of number, right? That's a big number. 28.5 points plus rebounds is his number. They're giving up over 26, nearly 27 points, just points. Then when you sprinkle in the rebounds, they're giving up over 11, almost 12 rebounds per game, right? So that's like 37, 38 plus rebounds and points given up. He needs about 29 to clear this 28.5 number. So the matchup looks really good on paper. It's just a matter of, do we trust him? Do we trust Julius Randle to clear the 28.5? The matchup looks good, though. Let's look at the rebound chances for Julius Randle as a member of the New York Knicks. We'll switch this up. We'll scroll down here, go to the New York Knicks, click Get Stats. As far as rebound chances go, well, they're kind of all over the place. Actually, Isaiah Hartenstein is leading the team with 15.7 rebound chances. I think he comes off the bench. Julius Randle is second on the team, though, with 15.2. And then you've got their other big man, Mitchell Robinson, with 13 rebound chances. So Randle has turned his 15.2 rebound chances into 9.3 actual rebounds. So not a bad number, right? If he pulls in 9 boards tonight, then we need him to score about 20 points. What are his points there? His points are at 18.5. 18.5 if you wanted to go just the points. So I'm feeling a little unsure here, to be honest with you, about Julius Randle. Looking at his game logs, looking at what he's done against the Hawks. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Help me out here. Are you feeling this one or not? He's projected for 29.9 points plus rebounds. We are getting some value here. He's at 28.5 on 3 different books. But on FanDuel, he's at 29.5. So we are getting a point or seeing a point of value here on Julius Randle. Are we trusting Randle or no? Roy's saying you should just go with Julius Randle's points only. That's the move. So don't go with the rebounds and points. You're saying just take the points. All right. Let's move on then. We'll axe Julius Randle from our list today. The next guy, we're going out west. We're talking about Alperen Şengün. That's right, the Goon Squad. Where my goons at? 8.5 rebounds for Şengün. I'm seeing a lot of green on this dude's rebounds, including 9 against the Clippers in his last game. Do we just run it back here, click the rinse and repeat button on Şengün? I mean, it's looking pretty good, right? When you open up his little game logs and you see nothing but green bars, gets you a little excited, gets you a little bricked up, doesn't it? All right, let's look at the rebounds for Şengün here. We're going to switch this up. Clippers at Rockets. Guys, props at cash. Just telling you. It's got all the tools you need right here. Where is he? I'm not seeing his game logs here. Where is Alperen Şengün? No, not on the board. Let's refresh. Maybe he wasn't quite in there like swimwear just yet. Maybe we got to refresh to get Alperen Şengün's rebound stats. Let's dive in. Boop. Rebounds. LA Clippers, Houston Rockets. He's still not up on the board. All right. Well, we don't have anything to look at, but go 5 for 5. Let's look at StatMuse. Maybe StatMuse can help us out here. Alperen Şengün rebound logs this season. Just want to make sure. All right. Yeah. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games played by Şengün. He is 6 for 6 with 9 or more rebounds in every single game in which he has participated in, including, again, his last game against the Clippers. Played 30 minutes, ended up pulling in just enough rebounds to get over the hump with 9. So my man keeps getting the job done here. It's looking pretty good, right? Pretty good to me. Let's go to the rebound chances for Şengün. Switch this up from the New York Knicks. Go down and find our Houston Rockets. Click Get Stats. And you can see who's leading the way, right? As far as rebound chances go, it is the man of the hour, Alperen Şengün, with 18 rebound chances per game, averaging a healthy 9.8 rebounds per game. Nearly 10 boards per game, guys, and his line's sitting at 8.5. And he's covered in every single game. Does he keep the good vibes rolling tonight against the Clippers? He just might. Let's look at the matchup here for the big guy for the Houston Rockets. We'll go to the center position because that's where Şengün spends his time. And then we're going to go find the Los Angeles Clippers and see how many rebounds per game they give up. 14.6 for a guy who needs 9 boards. That's not too shabby, right? That's a lot of margin. About 14 to 15 rebounds versus a guy who needs 9 rebounds. What we thinking? On Şengün? Is it looking good? Or is it looking like a faded up type of situation? Let's go get a projection on his rebounds, gang. You guys let me know what you're thinking while I'm looking up this. He is projected for 9.9 boards. That's close to 10. On sites where he is at 8.5, minus 145, minus 135, minus 160. Holy smokes, we're getting some very good juice on the over on Şengün here. He's even as high as 9.5 rebounds on a site like FanDuel. So we are getting some value here. I really like this one. I mean, shoot, at 8.5 boards with all the juice coming in on the over like it is, with him being at 9.5, they're going to bump this. All right. It is what it is. It's going to get bumped from 8.5 to 9, especially after you guys start smashing it into some of your entries tonight. Let's cap this thing off with Luka Doncic, rebounds and assists. I'm thinking that we go over on Luka's rebounds plus assists tonight. He's been doing a pretty good job here. Pretty good job at covering rebounds, assists, and points. I mean, dude is on one. Like I said earlier, how good has Luka Doncic been tonight? Really damn good. That's the answer. So let's go to the rebounds plus assists category. Take a look at our man, Luka. For my money, the best player in the league right now. I'm just going to say it, guys. Could be a bold take. Could be like stating the obvious, but I think he's the best player in the league right now. right now. Looking at his last few games here, 15 rebounds and assists, comes back with 17, 18, 25, and 26. Now, against Orlando, he had just 8. Even more reason why I like it. You know me, guys. If you know me and you've been tuning in for a while, you know that after a flop, I like to go right back to a prop, and I think I want to go back here. After a letdown game against Orlando where he had just 8, I kind of want to go back here. I do. I'm going to be honest with you. Against the Utah Jazz, man, he played the Jazz quite a bit last season. Now, this was with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Bogdanovich, right? A lot of the Royce O'Neal, a lot of these guys not on the team anymore. A much easier matchup awaits Luka Doncic tonight. Kelly Olynyk, Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley. I mean, Lauri Markkanen. None of these guys are really like big time rebounders or anything. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 6 times he went over. 67% hit rate. He averaged 17.5 rebounds plus assists against a much better Utah Jazz team back last season than they are this season. So I kind of like this spot here for Luka Doncic. Now, one cool thing that you could use this NBA advanced stats tools for, you could go pull up the Dallas Mavericks here, and you could take a look at both the potential assists, all right? We want to see Luka's name at the top, and we're gonna look at the rebound chances. Potential assists, no surprise. Through 6 games, he's averaging 16.5 potential assists. That's good for an 8.7 assists per game average. So he's dominating the potential assists. You look at the passes made, guys. This is another thing to kind of keep your eye out on. How many passes does a player make? Well, he makes a lot, 53 passes per game. Right behind him is Spencer Dinwiddie with 44.5, and then things really fall off a cliff. So the passes made are being dominated by Doncic and Dinwiddie. They're the 2 players who have the ball in their hands the most and are making the most passes and are leading the team as a result in potential assists per game. So he's getting about 9 assists per game. That's his average. So if he gets about 9 assists tonight against the Utah Jazz, so then we need what? 8 rebounds out of him? About 8 rebounds? Do we think that that's possible? Well, let's go look. Let's go look at his rebound chances. So we'll hit the drop down. We'll switch this from Houston to Dallas. Click Get Stats. And we go to the rebound chances, and wouldn't you know it? Luka Doncic dominating the rebound chances for the Dallas Mavericks. He's turned his 14.2 rebound chances into a 9.5 rebound per game average. So if he just has an average game tonight in the assists and rebound categories, he should go over this 16.5 number against the Utah Jazz team that just hasn't been all that good. They haven't been good. So let's look at the rebounds and assists given up by the Jazz on a per game basis to point guard, shooting guards, shoot. We'll even look at small forwards because Luka's kind of positionless. He's like a point forward, right? We're going to look at all of them. Let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. Where are my Utah Jazz at? Utah. They're giving up about 4.8 rebounds to point guards. That's pretty low. I'm going to guess that they haven't faced anybody that is the caliber of my man Luka Doncic here, but they are giving up a healthy 7.3 assists per game to point guards, which puts them right around the middle of the pack, we'll say. And then as far as shooting guards go, let's look at the rebounds given up to shooting guards by the Utah Jazz. 6.7 rebounds and about 3 assists. So these numbers are going to be kind of wonky, right? Luka, he's a different animal. It's hard to put him into any single position, but let's also look at the small forward spot. The Utah Jazz giving up 9.5 rebounds to small forwards and 2.2 assists per game. So I'm not really worried about the matchup. I mean, this guy's pretty much matchup proof, but I wanted to dig into the DVP to kind of show you guys a little bit closer what we can possibly expect here from Luka Doncic. Now, let's get a projection. He's projected for 16.6 rebounds and assists. Guys, if you look at DraftKings, he's at 16.5 on DraftKings, a minus 145 betting favorite to go over. All right. And he's even as high as 17.5. So again, we talk about value a lot. Well, we are getting some value here. I think what I'm going to do here is take the over. I'm going to take more on Luka Doncic's rebounds and assists. I'm going to take the more on Alperen Şengün at 8.5 rebounds. I'm going to take John Collins to go for more than 8 rebounds. And what I'm going to do is probably leave DeJounte Murray off. I'm going to go with a 3 pick. Now, let me tell you why. Because if Luka does his job, if Alperen Şengün does his job, and let's say John Collins, because he's a big betting favorite at 8.5 rebounds, let's say he sticks at 8. He ends up tying with 8 rebounds. That's a hit, and a tie, or a push. This 2.25x payout now becomes a 3x payout because it goes from a 3-pick flex to a 2-pick power. So we get the safety by flexing, right? If we go 2 out of 3, we still profit 1.25x if you go 2 out of 3. So we get the safety of a flex, but we get the upside and the potential of a 3x if it plays out like I just said. Luka hits, Şengün hits, and Collins ties. We now have a 3x payout. So you get safety of a 3x flex or 3-pick flex, and you get the upside of a 3x payout being like a 2-pick power. So I'm going to just put 25 on this. We'll lock it in, make it a 3-pick flex. Hopefully Şengün hits, hopefully Luka hits, and if John Collins ties at 8, so be it. Because then that unlocks the 3x, the backdoor 3x for us. So that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's what we're hoping for. So that's the 3 that I'm going to go with. But yeah, I still think DeJounte Murray at 20.5 points is in play. Don't be afraid to take unders, guys. You know, for these guys to hit the overs like, you know, we hope that they do. I mean, it really has a lot has to go their way. A lot has to go perfect for a guy like DeJounte Murray to go over 20.5. We've seen him go under. So I don't hate that pick. I'm just not going to put him in my 3-pick flex because we needed 3, and those were my favorite 3 that we talked about. So that's what we're going for. Collins for more than 8 rebounds, Şengün for more than 8.5, and Luka Doncic for more than 16.5 rebounds plus assists. All right. You guys are leaving a lot of picks in the chat. This is the Q&A portion of the show. For the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to take your questions. Guys, if you want to guarantee that your question gets seen, that your voice is heard, and you want to help support the show, free content. This is free content here. I'm taking an hour plus out of my day to help you guys out. Leave a super chat, all right? So where the live chat window is, there's an option under there for you to leave a super chat. What that does is highlights your comment, highlights your questions. It guarantees that I see it. Plus, you can go to sleep feeling good about yourself. You're supporting a content creator like myself, all right? So I'm going to try to get to as many questions as I can. We've got about 10 to 15 minutes. Super chats are your best friend. Like I said, guarantees that I see your question, do a deep dive for you on a pick, a play that you have a question about. Rolling through some of these here, scrolling up just a little bit. My guy Ray is talking about Brook Lopez for PRA with Drew Holiday dealing with an illness. He's up in the air. Brook Lopez has been getting 30 plus minutes. There's no way that he misses. So let me ask you, Ray, is this Brook Lopez PRA play contingent? In other words, does it hinge on Drew Holiday being out of the lineup? Or do you like it even if Drew Holiday plays? Need to know. I need to know the specifics, where your mindset is at. But we'll take a look at it for you real quick. He's talking about Brook Lopez being a PRA play for him at 20.5 going up against the Detroit Pistons if Drew Holiday is out. Sounds like he's banking on Holiday being out, dealing with this illness. To me, the way that I interpret Ray's comment is that he wants to see Drew Holiday out so that he can go here with Brook Lopez for more than 20.5 PRA. This could be a very good option. We're just going to have to dig into it real quick. So we'll go PRA. We'll go over to the Milwaukee Bucks game. They're taking on the Detroit Pistons. This game does look like a blowout. Maybe it becomes more competitive if Drew Holiday sits out. Maybe things stay a little closer. It becomes a tighter contest. But so far at 20.5 PRA, Lopez has 22. All right. 16-14 goes under there. 27, 27, and 33. So he's covered this pretty handily, pretty easily in his last 3 games against the Knicks, Hawks, and Pistons. Tonight he plays the Pistons again. This is a rematch, run it back type of game. All right, 33 PRA against the Pistons in his last game. Now, we look at last season, he played Detroit once, had 21 PRA against Detroit. So in his last 2 games, last season and this season, combine those 2, he is 2 for 2 in his last 2 against Detroit. So it's not looking so bad on paper. Now, let's look at the entire season last season for Brook Lopez. Kind of a limited game log. He had 31 games, though. Let's take both Chris Middleton, who is not going to play tonight, obviously. Let's take Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton out of the equation and see what happens here. Well, he doesn't have any game logs from last season or this season with both Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton out. So we're kind of going into uncharted waters, right? Uncharted territory here. 16. He has one game without Drew Holiday where he had 16 PRA. If we put Drew Holiday back in the mix and we take just Chris Middleton out, without Chris Middleton, he's covered this in 7 out of 18 games, 39% hit rate. And of course, that includes every game from this season because Chris Middleton has yet to take the floor for the Milwaukee Bucks. So that's just a little glimpse. We don't really have a lot of great information on Brook Lopez and his output without Drew and Chris Middleton in the lineup, but he is at 20.5 on all sports books. Projected for 24 PRA, though. 24 projection versus a 20.5. That's a pretty good margin of differential there, right? So that's not looking too shabby. What else are you guys talking about here? Todd Live for Sunday saying that he likes Giannis better at home for rebounds, but he didn't have the greatest game versus Detroit the other night, but he's looking to go back to it. All right. What's Giannis's rebounds tonight? Let's quickly look at that one. We'll try to make this a lightning round. 12.5 boards, ended up with 7 against Detroit in the last game. Let's get you a projection on Giannis. He's projected for 13 rebounds tonight. He is at 12.5 on all of the major sports books. 12.5. But he's a betting favorite to stay under 12.5 tonight. So, could be a blowout. I don't like taking overs for a full game on games that looks like it's going to set up for a blowout. So, I'm going to probably stay away from any full game props here. What else are we talking about? Beetle Bump God says that he took Mitchell Robinson for points and rebounds. All right, shout out to Beetle going for the Mitch Rob points and rebounds. Let's just look at that one real quick. Points and rebounds for Mitchell Robinson. He is set at a 13.5 number going up against Clint Capella. See if you made a wise decision here. Points and rebounds for Mitchell Robinson. He is projected for 18.3. Well, holy hell. That's a great projection. 18.3 versus 13.5. We're talking about almost 5 points different projection versus where he's at on PrizePicks, right? He's at 13.5 on most books, 14.5 on some books, though. So you are getting value versus a site like PointsBet and FanDuel. So that looks like a pretty worthwhile investment there, investing in Mitchell Robinson to go for more than 13.5 points plus rebounds. We know the Hawks are giving it up, right? We talked about the Hawks giving up a ton of points to both power forwards and centers, I believe. Yeah, Hawks giving up 22, almost 23 points, close to 15 rebounds per game, so 23 and 15. This guy just needs 14 points plus rebounds. So that might be a better look than Julius Randle, to be honest with you. I don't hate that. That looks like a pretty decent option. What else? Scrolling through, getting my scroll on. Again, guys, if you have any hard-hitting questions, any pressing issues, needs, concerns, comments, leave a super chat so I don't miss it, all right? I'm just scrolling through here, glazing over these. Some people are saying, I'm taking Şengün. Some people are saying, I'm taking Şengöt. Şengöt is money. JY seems like he's liking Şengün as well. Neville wants to know about Vucevic over 40.5 fantasy score. All right, we don't talk a ton about fantasy score, but fantasy score can be a definite worthwhile option. Nikola Vucevic, we already know that Zach LaVine is going to be out tonight. So we got both of the other Bulls here. DeMar DeRozan at 40.5 against Charlotte. Nikola Vucevic at 40.5 against Charlotte. Attacking Charlotte in the middle. What I mean by that is that the center position has been a pretty good move for the last few seasons, right? With Mason Plumlee in town. They're giving up over 61 fantasy points per game to opposing centers. That is the fourth most fantasy points per game. What you can do to help you with your fantasy score research is use StatMuse. Guys, StatMuse is free. Please use StatMuse for your fantasy score research. You could go Nikola Vucevic, type in FanDuel points, logs without Zach LaVine. You can kind of get an idea in games played without Zach LaVine, how Nikola Vucevic has fared when it comes to his fantasy score. All right, this is how you do that. Last 25 games or so that he's played without Zach LaVine, how many times has he went over? I think this is 25. They don't number these, but I'm pretty sure it's 25. Let's just count them down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 out of 21. That's a 60, or out of 25, 14 out of 25. Not bad. Has he played Charlotte without Zach LaVine in the past? Let's look. He took on Charlotte April 22nd, 2021. So Mason Plumlee would have been there. And he put up 44.2 fantasy score in that game. He's at 40.5 today, gang. All right. So this was a game against Charlotte without Zach LaVine present. Now, one thing that you could do here, you could take this a step further. You could go Nikola Vucevic FanDuel points versus Mason Plumlee. Type in the word logs. Such a fun word, logs. And you could get an idea of how Nikola Vucevic has done against Mason Plumlee in his career at 40.5 fantasy score. Didn't do so hot April 8th, 2022. But we go back to his other game as a member of the Chicago Bulls, 54.2 fantasy points against Mason Plumlee in that game. Going back to his Orlando days. God, I miss Vucevic. I believe his jersey will be hung up and retired with the Orlando Magic one day. He was that great of a player during his Magic tenure. But 41.8, 63.9, 47, 55.4, 56, 47, 50, 48.9. So he's had some really big games going up against Mason Plumlee. But the ones that are probably most meaningful are these last two, where Vooch was a Chicago Bull and Plumlee was a Charlotte Hornet. He is 1 for 2, but he only played 22 minutes in that game against Mason Plumlee, his last game where he managed just 15.5 fantasy score. All right, so take that into consideration. The previous game, he played a healthy 38 minutes, 54.2 fantasy points. All right, so this is how you can do a little bit of a deeper dive using StatMuse when it comes to fantasy score. Now, one thing that you could do is just use a projection site like Fantasy Labs, and you can see what their fantasy score projection is. Make sure you're using FanDuel projections on whatever fantasy projection site that you're into. In this case, it's Fantasy Labs, but 43.3 projected fantasy points. And I've talked to you guys before about how you can kind of build your own fantasy projection using Vegas lines and betting odds. So we pull up all of the different single stat player props and projections for Nikola Vucevic. So how do you do this? Well, here we go. We're going to go over it again because I know some people have never seen this before, have never heard me explain this. So we're going to do it again, right? You look at his line here at 18.5. You're seeing the odds. The odds are coming in on the under. So let's just say 18 points. And I'm going to write this down. And maybe you want to write this down too. Maybe you want to take a little bit of notes so that you don't forget how you can calculate fantasy score on your own using Vegas lines. So we've got him for 18 points, being that he's set at 18.5. He's a betting favorite to go under 18.5, right? Betting favorite to go under 18.5. So let's just assume he stays at 18 points. Next, we're going to look at his rebounds. His rebounds are at 12.5 on the books. But at 12.5, looks like more of these books, he's a betting favorite to go under, right? So let's just call him 12 rebounds. And for every rebound, you get 1.2 fantasy points. That's how they kind of translate. That's how they convert. All right, so we talked about points, rebounds. Now we're talking about assists. He's at 2.5 on the books, even at 3.5. He's a big betting favorite to go over 2.5 assists, but a big betting favorite to stay under 3.5. So let's assume that he falls right there in the middle at 3 assists. For every assist that he has, that's 1.5 fantasy score. So we've got the points, the rebounds, and assists. What are we missing? We're missing blocks and steals. Those are worth 3 points apiece. So taking a look at the blocks, his blocks line is set at 0.5 blocks, but he's a minus 120 betting favorite to go over 0.5 blocks. So they think he's going to have at least one block tonight. So we're going to tally that, one block. And what about a steal? Is he projected to have at least one steal? Well, he's at 0.5 steals tonight, minus 140 betting favorite, minus 145 betting favorite to record at least one steal. So that's another 3 points on his fantasy score. And then last but not least, we need to know about his turnovers. How many turnovers will Nikola Vucevic have? Now, I don't have Vucevic here in this little group here for turnovers, but you can use DraftKings Sportsbook. So we'll go to DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll go to the NBA. We will go over to player props. We will go over to the turnovers category. See, they do have turnovers on DraftKings. And then we'll go down and we'll find Nikola Vucevic, who is a Chicago Bull, playing the Charlotte Hornets. And we'll look for his turnover prop here. Do they have one up? They do. He is at 1.5 turnovers tonight, a minus 195 betting favorite. So let's just assume that he's going to turn the ball over 2 times. That would be negative 2 points. So we kind of have our list, right? 18 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, a steal, and 2 turnovers. Now let's start doing some number crunching, some calculations here. We pull up the calculator. And again, this is not an exact science. This isn't perfect by any means. But we're going to start crunching these numbers together and see what kind of output we get here. So we know about the 18 points. For every point, you get a fantasy point. It's a 1-to-1 conversion. But what about the 12 rebounds times the 1.2 points you get for every rebound? Well, that comes out to 14.4. All right, so he's going to get 14.4 fantasy score. Let's jot that down here. And then what about his 3 assists? Well, you get 1.5 points for every 3 assists, or for every assist, 1.5 points. So that's 4.5 points right there off of assists. We talked about the 3 that you get for a block. He's expected to get 1 block, and the 3 that you get for a steal. And then we got to take 2 off of this final tally. So let's add it all up and see where we stand here on his fantasy score. Again, you can do this yourself. All right. It's not perfect, but it's a way for you to get a fantasy score of your own. So 18 points plus 14.4 points for his rebounds, plus 4.5 points for his assists, plus 3 for a block, plus 3 for a steal equals 42.9. But then we got to dock him 2 points because he's expected to have 2 turnovers. And you're left at a 40.9 fantasy score. All right. If all of the props and the odds work out, he's at 40.9, 40.5 on PrizePicks. So it took a little bit of work for us to get there, but we got there, gang. He's expected to go over 40.5 fantasy score. It's going to be close, though. Let's just roll this up to 41. I guess you would lean toward the over on Nikola Vucevic's fantasy score. There you go. That's how you can do it yourself, though. Get your own fantasy scores using the most accurate lines out there, which are the Vegas lines, right? From the sports books. Oh, we got ourselves some porn bots. Guys, don't click on any of that porn shit, all right? Hopefully you guys are a little wiser than that, a little smarter than that. What else are we talking about here? I just want to buzz through a couple of these. Mr. Zachary Cromer, thank you so much for subscribing. Appreciate that. Charlie's asking about, do you like Jalen Green over? Jalen Green over for what? There's a lot of different ways we could play Jalen Green. Are we talking about his points? Are we talking about points and assists, PRA? I don't know. You got to let me know. I don't know what you're talking about for Jalen Green. You got to be more specific. Let's just look at some of the Jalen Green props here. He's at 21.5 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 3-point makes. What we can do is go back here and just type in Jalen Green's name. Let's see if there's any advantages here. You're asking about Jalen Green. Well, he's at 20.5 and 21.5 points on most of the books. Most of the sites have him at 20.5 points. So for me, the value would be taking Jalen Green for less than 21.5 points, being that he's at 20.5 points on some of these books, right? His rebounds are at 4. What are we thinking about the rebounds? Well, on most of the books, he's at 3.5 and a huge betting favorite. So PrizePicks has him up at 4. So this one could end up in a tie or a push. But I would take him for more than 4 rebounds. What about his 3-point makes? His 3-point makes are set at 2.5 on the books. At 2.5, it looks like most sites he is a betting favorite to go under. So maybe you go less on that, even though he is projected to make 3.1 tonight. PRA, is there any value on the PRA? Well, he's at 27.5 on all sites for points, rebounds, and assists. So there's not really any need to take the 27.5 unless you just got a really good hunch for some reason that he's going to go over. Points plus rebounds are set at 25.5. If we look at the points plus rebounds using Fantasy Labs, he is at 25.5 on all the books. Again, no value on that one. Points plus assists, 23.5. He's at 23.5 on all books, no value there. And then his fantasy score sits at 30.5. So if you want to play Jalen Green, the one that you're getting the most value on is probably going less or under on his 21.5 points. Being that he is at 20.5 on a lot of books, they think, their lines makers think, that 20 to 21 points is an outcome for Jalen Green tonight. So there's your question for Jalen Green. Hopefully that helps answer it. I'm going to take like maybe one or two more, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Again, if you have any last minute hard-hitting questions, leave a super chat. Guys, make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you have liked today's live stream, and then you're gonna want to go and leave a comment once the replay goes live. Comment your favorite prop of the day, and you'll get entered in to win a risk-free 2-pick power play to score $100 on PrizePicks. All right. Everyday Fantasy says, what about beef stew? Isaiah Stewart. We'll make this one the last one. Isaiah Stewart at 19.5. 19.5 for Isaiah Stewart. You're looking at the points plus rebounds for him. Let's go see what beef stew can do for you. 19.5. He's in a run it back game against the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. He's one of those young guys who are pretty much, we'll say, blowout proof, right? You got him. You got Cade Cunningham. You've got Jaden Ivey. These young guys are going to get minutes, whether it's a blowout or not, typically. So points plus rebounds for Isaiah Stewart. Got him projected for a healthy 22.3. He's at 19.5 on DraftKings, betting favorite to go over at -130. Same situation on BetMGM. But at FanDuel and PointsBet, they've got him at 20.5. So we are seeing a little bit of value here on Isaiah Stewart, meaning that he is higher on those two books at 20.5 than he is on PrizePicks. So just based on that alone, taking the over, the more, it's not a bad option. Let's look at his game logs real quick. We'll go points plus rebounds. Points plus rebounds. Isaiah Stewart, 19.5. Last 10 games. How many times has he covered this? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 games played. He's covered in 5 out of 8, including his last 3, which also includes the last game where he played against the Milwaukee Bucks. 22 points plus rebounds. So pretty decent hit rate. If you look at the last 5 especially, or last 6, 5 out of his last 6, he has gone over this number at 19.5. I don't hate it. Projected to go over at 22. Seeing some value at 20.5. I think it's a good look. Anyways, gang, that's going to be it. We've talked for about an hour now, and we could stay here all day and do this all day, but I'm gonna get out of here. So yes, as Chill Robot says, happy hump day. Good luck to everybody out there. If you're in Patreon and Discord, I'll be in there throughout the day chatting it up with you guys. Good luck on all your entries tonight. Let's try to win. Peace.